Well, hey, everybody watching. This is Brandon and Micah from Annihilator, co-owners of Annihilator Broadheads. We're bringing to you the first of many to come.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's not really a podcast. It's kind of more of like just some video campfire stories with no campfire because it was too windy outside.
We would be in a campfire tonight.
Yeah.
This would be sick. We've had 50-mile-an-hour winds for a week straight.
Yeah,
and
it didn't bode well for turkey hunting.
We almost watched a hen turkey yesterday get rolled over.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, and still smash a turkey.
Yeah.
So anyhow, this will be the first of many stories. Mike and I get the privilege and honor of just traveling around and just meeting cool people and being in the industry, and we just want to start capturing some of that and getting cool people on the show and learning more about them and bringing that to you guys for good content. So today we got with us Bobby Glenn from Chasing the Dream TV.
Yeah, right out of Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Just north of Tulsa.
Yeah.
So we tried to go mess around with some pigs, right?
Yeah. Tried to get on some pigs, and man, they're just hard to pattern. You know, it's we have them up here and they're pretty bad, but once they move, they can be gone for a week or two, or that whole sounder might not even come back. They might be, you just got new ones coming through. So
we came down for TAC, Oklahoma TAC. That was badass. We got to shoot with you.
That was my first
Well,
TAC.
I didn't. He got to shoot with you. I was a little jealous.
Yeah.
But TAC is pretty rad.
Dude, it was rad. That was my first TAC. It was hard to I thought I was gonna have to tie a rope to me to tying a mica to keep him with me going through the mountains, but
Probably get my backpack. I'm training for elk season. Yeah.
No, it was a blast, man. We shot some awesome targets. It got a little warm on us there for a minute, and we had some people kind of slowing down, taking their time, and we didn't get to shoot all the courses that we wanted to shoot, but dude, we had a blast. That was cool.
Yeah. Well, Shane, our sales director, he came out, and him and I got to shoot the knock-on course the next day, which you guys missed.
Yeah.
That was a badass course, man. John Dudley does a good job setting that thing up. He's a pro.
Yeah, that whole event. Shout out to
Yeah.
TAC. I mean, they put on a hell of a shoot. It's always a good time. So, for the people that missed it, we'll not to go on a side tangent, but we'll have the hopefully we got the designs for the shooter's box, so that hood, the shooter's box coming back out.
Yeah, it'll come back out next year.
And we're gonna rip maybe an XL this year or something.
Yeah. And they should be at. We talked to TAC, and our plan is to bring that shooter's box to a couple of them this year.
Really?
Yeah. At least the ones that we can get a majority of guys to, because it takes a couple guys to run that.
Yeah.
Biggest thing for us is we always want to make it safe. So.
Yeah.
But if you get to experience that, people that are there, it's cool. So.
If you haven't heard about it, our shooter's box, we bring car hoods, and in this case, a trunk hood is the new one. And let you guys use our arrow, your bow, our broadhead, shoot through a car hood. It's pretty fun.
Yeah, one of these. Bobby's got one back here. Just one of these bad boys. Yeah, just ripping right through a car hood. Yeah. It comes out the other side clean every single time. Takes the arrow and the fletchings through the hole, and that's what we're about. That's what the broadhead's about. And luckily for us, more on our side, because we can't thank Bobby enough that he decided to run those, and some of these deer he's got back behind us were taken not only by him but by his son. So it's a privilege to be down here with him doing this, seeing the animals that are actually harvested with that broadhead. And not saying that our broadhead brought us together, but the coolest thing about coming together in this industry is hunters, especially bow hunters, have a unique correlation when we get together. It's like friendships just thrive, and I'm sure this one will have many more get-togethers for sure, but this is kind of how it starts, and it's one of the cool things about what we do as bow hunters and as hunters in general. This whole idea behind conservation just brings people together for the right reasons.
Yeah.
So tell us about you, man. Tell us about Chasing the Dream TV, who you are, how long you've been hunting.
Yep.
Your whole story, and then of course lead into how we met or got connected at least.
Well, hold on. First, what's the nickname that Brandon and I? What's the nickname that we call the show? We got something for you.
Yeah. So it's Chasing the Dream, Yeah, but what do you call it?
You tell us what we call it.
Chasing the cream.
Chasing the cream. So in honor of chasing the cream.
In honor of chasing the cream, we got you a gift.
We got you a
Really?
We got you a gift today.
You better not shoot nothing on me.
We're not going to shoot nothing on you.
No,
All right.
but it kind of falls in those lines.
Really?
So in honor of Chasing the Dream TV, which is no knock, this dude busts his butt and hunts more than anybody I've ever heard of or anybody that I know. It's not a knock on his TV show. It's just a lighthearted thing that when you're dragging butt in the woods, you come up with. How many names did we come up with this weekend?
Oh, man.
Laughing our ass off, man.
Too many.
Too many nicknames for different people. So it's if you can keep things lighthearted, this is what builds that friendship. So in honor of building the friendship,
Oh my God.
that's Chasing.
Get out of here.
And that's actually liqueur inside there, like 50%.
Cream liqueur?
Cream
Oh,
liqueur.
yeah.
And it even says cream liqueur.
You know what we call it, right? The spermsicle.
So that's what chasing the cream.
Brother.
That's what chasing the cream.
Hey,
So.
go ahead and get a portrait picture like this. Go ahead and get the portrait.
Get the phone out.
Yeah, just go ahead and get that.
That's hilarious.
We'll put
man.
that.
We saw that today.
We're like, dude, that is
We're like,
all.
that's it right
That's
there,
all
man.
him.
That's chasing that cream right there. Hold it out. Hold it out.
So
That's bad.
Boom.
that's it.
That's it, brother. That's it. Like a fish. Oh, your eyes were closed.
Yeah, if you hold it out farther, you know it's bigger. And all the hunters know that. We're chasing some cream.
Put it in your pocket.
Tonight on the
And
boat.
yeah. And then one day when you're feeling low,
Yeah.
and that big buck didn't come into the blind, you just need to pull that out of the blind and just take a shot and go, you know what? I'm chasing that real dream.
Yeah.
Yeah. Real cream.
Yeah, that's
The real
That's
cream.
it.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, all jokes aside, man, tell us about Bobby. Tell us about Chasing the Dream, where it started. I mean, how you started as a hunter. Like, Brandon and I are super fascinated with white-tailed deer. We both I'm from California, from West Coast.
Yeah.
I took Brandon 2 years ago to chase blacktail, and he absolutely loves it. It's probably, it's hard for me to say this in public, but if I said that I could either chase elk or blacktail, I really, really, really like chasing blacktail.
Did you just come out of the closet for blacktail?
Yeah.
It's hard for me to say this in public, but
but it is. It's like it's that passion for chasing the dream, chasing that animal. For you guys, it's all about whitetail. Mm-hmm. So tell us how how you started
And that's the thing with chasing the dream. It's not all about just whitetail because everybody has a different dream, whether it's hunting or whatever it is, man. You chase your own dream to make you, be a better person or keep you from doing things or, just something that you love as a hobby. I mean, everybody from building cars or, to coming out of the closet about blacktail.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, so I grew up in the country. I hunted all my life. All the time when I was a kid. I'm an only child, so being at the house by myself in the woods, I killed a lot of things. That's all I did, and then of course, moved to town, and as any teenager, you kind of move away from that stuff, and you start doing the girls or basketball or sports, and kind of pulls you away. So at a young age, I got married and had a kid, and I was just sitting there thinking, like, what do I need to do as a hobby to just keep me, to be the best man I can be, and do just fun hobby stuff, and keep me on the straight and narrow, and be a great dad, and that's kind of where it started. And I thought, man, I like hunting. I'm gonna get back into bow hunting, because I shot bows when I was a kid, shot tournament archery when I was 11, so back with the old wood bows that were all different kinds of wood colors, the old Yorks, and so then, man, I really didn't even care about. It was weird. Like, the fire grew in me with this one deer I was hunting when I was probably about 19. Big deer. He's probably 150-inch deer, and for some reason I just got that like fire in me. Like, I didn't want no other deer. I wanted that deer. And I wanted to try to figure him out, and I wanted to try to beat him. And I ended up not getting him, but that is where, the fire started and grew with me. So from that point on, it was just straight hunting, any kind of hunting. bow hunting was my passion, and it was all about, you know, going out there and just hunting and taking my son and taking him hunting, and you know, that was just the greatest thing to me. So when he was he was probably 6 or 7. This was back in 2007 is when I started filming and shooting deer and shooting big deer, mature deer. It just started. I just started taking the camera. I said, I'm gonna buy a camera just so I can film my son and have all these memories, you know. And it was, you know, there was some shows out, and it, you know, it was getting kind of popular, and I had some people that I just looked up to. And one thing about hunting is, you know, every one of these whitetails is different, like different person, different character. Every one that I go after and pick out, is totally different. They might have some of the similar patterns, but it's a totally different animal. You know, so you have to kind of beat them. So after, I was just years of, it just drove me to kill old big deer, and I started videoing it just for my son and have it for me. Well, then I was never really big into social media, period. Never had all them old social apps. But then I got Facebook, and I was like, man, I'm gonna start posting some of these pictures and videos on there. And I started posting my videos and stuff, and you know, it's free promotion. I didn't even think of it that way until I had a TV show reach out to me. And I was on that show for 2 years, and man, it just drove me. And to me, the hardest thing to do is kill a mature whitetail that's 4 or 5 years old and older with a bow, with a camera, by yourself. I mean, a lot of people in the industry won't even attempt it. Like, they're like, no. Like, if you're, you know, why, when I could pay somebody? But that's not the challenge to me that drives me in here. So that's where it started. I was on that show.
That was kind of back before it was cool.
Yeah, pretty much.
I mean, think about it. You said 2007, right?
Yeah.
I'm not looking this up on the Google machine right now, but I'm pretty sure Facebook was really new then.
Yeah.
I remember iPhones came out right around then. I remember, I don't think I got my first iPhone maybe until 2009. I think YouTube was 2005 maybe. So just to put that in perspective of like, when all that technology was out, when you started doing this, and that was a little early to do self-film hunts.
And the funniest thing is when I started, I got so big into it, I went to a filming school for it, and you know, learned a bunch of it for the filming perspective and all that. And it was funny because back in 2008, I started with a Nikon, one of the old Nikon DSLRs. And I was like one of the first ones in my area with the people that was just running DSLRs, and I had some of these big producers like, man, you're crazy. Like, you know, there's too much you got to do over here. Why not just run a camcorder, you know? And so that's where I originally started, and now I have some big camcorders and stuff, but now I'm back to running, you know, everybody's back to running DSLRs and Sonys and, you know, the A7s. And so, you know, 2 years of that, and just, you know, basically doing a lot that I was doing and me knowing, and I'm like, man, I just want to do this myself. You know, I want to brand my own brand. I want to make my own thing. And, you know, I had a buddy that was in it with me, Jeff Cook, and he wants to do the same thing. So we kind of just partnered up, started our own brand and stuff, and, man, it's been going ever since. That's what we've been doing. I've just been going, and I've killed big mature whitetail almost every year on video. So,
and not just in one state.
No, we're getting it. And and almost all the time it's self-filmed, you know, and you know, it's not going to be the best show when you air it, but I'm telling you, when you do that yourself, that's like the pinnacle of bow hunting. When you're there, you can film yourself and, you know, shoot a mature animal with a bow and recover. I mean, that's like, what else is harder? You know.
So if somebody wants to watch your show, where do you air all this? Is this on? It's on TV in Oklahoma. What if somebody's in Iowa and watching this and they're like, hey, I want to check that out? How do they?
So we air all our videos on, of course, Oklahoma, my TV 41 through the year, and then we're on Carbon TV. So you can look that app up, dial it in, and we're in the process of uploading a lot more to that. But of course, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, all that stuff, and just running local, man, and just, you know, doing what we do.
So I have to say, we can get into kind of how we met and stuff, but one of the things that stood out to me, and I know Micah even brought this up too, we talked about is, so we came out here, we didn't even really know you.
Yeah.
I mean, you shot the heads, but it was like, you were like, hey, you boys want to come out here and get on some deer or whatever, we'll figure something out. So this was last December, right?
Yeah.
We came out here and we got on some deer, and Micah shot a good buck, and we just didn't have the good deer come in for me during that time, which is fine. But when we left that trip, I remember Micah and I were just like, that guy gets it. He gets after it, like more than almost anybody we've met. I mean, we travel everywhere, man, to every hunt that you can imagine, trying to sell broadheads, and we meet a lot of freaking hunters, man. But you're living it, man. Like you're at your property. How many different properties do you think you got? 40?
Yeah.
50?
Probably a bunch, yeah.
Yeah, more than the average Joe, I'll say it that way. This guy, no joke, is at all these properties all the time. Feeding, getting stuff ready.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, tell us more about just more the management side of things.
See, and that's just whitetail. And when I started, I was at the point where I was like, man, I do everything. And it's hard to keep up because, like, even my family, like, I don't stop with just whitetail. I'm hitting, when it rolls around, I'm hitting mushrooms, picking mushrooms, catching crappie, and then I'm hitting noodling, killing turkeys, then noodling catfish, then back around to, going to Louisiana, killing gators. Yeah. And it's just like, I know one day it's going to stop. I mean, but I'm not stopping.
Yeah, for example, what are we doing tonight after this?
Yeah, we're going to go bow fishing for the first time, man.
So, Brandon and I's first time bow fishing, so.
Yeah.
So what are we going to catch tonight? Or catch, I guess, what are we going to shoot tonight?
Yeah. Well, some gar.
Yeah.
Probably some carp. I mean, there's no telling. Might shoot beaver.
Yeah. we were close, man. We were close. We were close, and Bob, we were up in the tree stand the other night. And Bob says, "Hey, if that beaver that's down there decides to come up this creek, he's like, it's gonna get it."
Yeah. So I mean, bow fishing, duck hunting. I mean, it's just
I hear you're the duck king.
I'm not the duck king. I love duck hunting, and I just got into it a couple years ago. I've shot ducks, but really getting out there and putting stuff out, man, I got some guys on my show that that's what they love. That's all they do.
Yeah, gotcha.
And when duck season will hit November and stuff, but I won't hunt any duck until, after whitetail season.
Yeah, that's kind of like your priority, right? Where it probably flip-flops for some of those guys, like the duck thing, right? Yeah. The duck thing is theirs. I know that, growing up in California, that's a Pacific flyway. I mean, there's like some of those duck guys that literally you will not hear from them during duck season. They might text you once or twice, and you're like, dude, literally, did you go underneath a rock someplace? Yeah. And it's just how it is, man. That's their thing. So, and for you, obviously, it's it's whitetail, but yeah, I think the biggest thing about like hunters and stuff is the fact that it's the love for being out there, right? It's the love and the appreciation for, like, you got turkey up here, you got ducks in here, you got your deer,
I'm addicted to it.
Yeah, that's it, man, right?
You guys can't see this in the view right now, but we didn't just take a couple bucks and put them in the corner because we thought it was cool.
Yeah.
Everywhere I look in this dude's garage, or even all the biggest deer are not in the shot. So we'll get some footage, some B-roll, and we'll show you some of this a little bit of the shot and just all the deer on the wall. And you've got like 4 more just waiting to get taxidermy right now.
I think there's 21 or 22 shoulder mounts in here.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It's awesome. And so
more coming.
The management side of things, like, you've got all these properties. How do you do all that, man? You're putting corn out all the time. You're trying to find the birds. You're trying to find the whitetail.
Checking trail cameras.
Check trail cameras. Yeah. I mean, are you even like putting food plots and stuff and all that stuff too, or like?
I haven't in the last couple of years, but we're going to try that this year. Yeah. If we can get the manpower together and everybody on the same page. And I mean, it's a chore itself just to run all the cameras and go to all the properties and dump corn and.
Yeah.
And early season, I mean, that's where it's at with whitetail. I mean, you're hitting every property. You got all your cameras out. Yeah. All these different corn piles, if you can bait, if you can't bait, or if you can't bait, you're in the corner of some bean field, or you're running trail cameras on trails, and you dial in. Well, I'm dialing in. Early season, I'm dialing in on what mature deer I have, and I'm gonna pick, and I'm gonna go after. And once I find him, out of all these properties, because you know it takes a lot of properties and a lot of stuff to find a mature deer, and when you find a mature deer, then you can stop the rest of that,
right,
and focus on him. You know, so that's basically where it's at with that.
Cool.
Now I want to interject real quick on something. It's interesting, like you said earlier, like that one deer, that one thing. If I was in the same position, or if I could look back and look at ourselves or myself in this position, talking to you about whitetail, and for me growing up out west, and I've said this to Brandon before, and I said this to all of our customers that come and talk to us. To me, and I'm not joking, it was almost portrayed as a joke to climb in a tree stand and chase a deer, because out west, you know, you don't realize until you come out and do this, and that's the appreciation that I have now, and Brandon and I have talked about it, and I'm sure he shares it too, is the mental grind that you guys go through trying to pattern one of these and get them on camera and figure out which deer you want to hunt. You know, it goes back to that Eastern versus Western mindset, right? Like it's not like a one deer for us. It's, I saw this really good buck up this ridge, and he might be there, he might not be, and then
let's go after him.
Yeah, let's go after him, but then you end up shooting something else, and you're still stoked, but but you know,
you don't get emotionally attached. You can get emotionally attached to a big deer.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Hold on. I get emotionally attached.
We're going to dinner. We're going on a date.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
I get emotionally attached. It's just my relationship only lasts, one day.
It's a one night stand.
It's a one night stand. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
you got long-term relationships.
I'd imagine that most, that some whitetail guys have probably one, lost sleep, right? Two, probably lost marriages. over probably, I'm sure, friendships.
Over big deer, and you know, it's it happens, man.
Yeah.
You know, it happens. I mean, this one deer right here, we call him Bo Jr. He was an 8-year-old deer. It's my biggest deer. You can't see him right now, but they will. He's a 206-inch deer. But we call him Bo Jr. because, it's like 2014 or something. His dad was just as big, huge. Never seen him in person, but had a couple pictures, and he looked like the moose at Bullwinkle or whatever, Bullwinkle or Bullwinkle.
Yeah.
So that was his dad. And he ended up disappearing. Well, then he showed up, and we were like, that's his son for sure. So we called him Bo Jr. And it was me and my buddy Larry Plesick and my son and his son Ivan. So that Kansas property up there, it's me and my buddy and our two sons. You know, we hunt, and so that deer, we were all emotionally attached to him. You know, because we had him on camera for a solid almost 8 years. He was 8 years old, and we couldn't tell you he was the same deer until he was 3.5. So you know, there's a solid 5 years of pictures of this deer. We know he's there, but we've never seen him.
Yeah.
You know, so and then
5 years.
Yeah.
Okay, man.
Yeah.
That's a long-term relationship.
That's a long-term relationship.
Yeah.
So, you know, and a lot of people don't understand, and I know about this stuff because I'm from here. If I went out west or anywhere else, it'd be different. That's the thing about hunting. Nobody's the best. You know, nobody's the best. You're learning something every day, and I learn something every day, and especially with every different animal that I said these are different. They teach you something totally different every time.
Yep.
So, going back to this deer, a lot of people are like, man, I had this giant deer on camera, and then he disappeared. You know, I think he's dead, or, you know. But I've learned over the years, these big old deer, when they're 3 to 4 years old, you know, they're like teenagers at a high school prom. They're running, chasing.
Yeah.
Their area is going to go 10 miles, 15 miles. You know, a lot of people are going to get this deer on camera. As the older they get, 6, 7, 8, this deer shrunk down to a 40-acre patch, and I'm not joking. So when you have a big deer on camera and you're like, man, he disappeared, I ain't never seen him again. He might not have died, he just might be your neighbor's deer. He might have sucked down to a closer patch. You know, so when they get older, their range tightens up. I only seen him twice in person ever, and the year I killed him, he just got old and lazier. I think because I never went into this patch of timber. I left it alone, unpressured. He was old. He thought he was the man in there. He didn't have nothing to worry about, you know. So stay out of the area. You know, pull them out any way you can. You know, play your wind. That's how you grow and kill old deer.
That's awesome, man. So, all right, now that we kind of know who you are, how did we get connected? I mean, I just remember getting Instagram, hit up on Instagram or something.
Yeah.
By one of your social people.
Yeah, my market manager.
Market manager at the time.
At the time.
They were like, hey, I think I might have jumped on a call. They were like, Bobby Glenn wants to talk about a partnership or whatever. I was like, well, hey, let's just jump on a quick call. Jumped on a quick call. I didn't even know who Bobby Glenn was, or Chasing Dream TV, right? Because ask Micah, we'll go to a trade show or something, and I'll have some famous hunter in front of me, and I have no idea who it is. So I'm like, hey man, I'm just not the guy that knows those stuff, and nor do I care that much. But anyway, so we get hit up. I get on a call, and they're like, yeah, we got a show. It's pretty popular. It's a good show, and we've got I think maybe 10 people on your team coming up. And we want to talk about a partnership and blah blah blah. And I'm like, well, who shot our broadheads? Like, well, pretty much most of them, but mostly Bobby Glenn. And I'm like, well, who's Bobby Glenn? Oh, he's one of the owners, and he freaking loves your broadheads. He swears by them. He says, they're the greatest thing, known to man. And I'm like, all right, well, that's cool. Like, can we talk to him? I want to hear like his story and his experience, and why he actually wants to partner with us. And if you follow Annihilator long enough, you know that we don't pay people to shoot our heads like big namers and stuff. We don't chase people. We don't chase people. If people come to us and they're like, hey, and we don't believe in pro staffs. We believe in ambassador staffs, and we can get into that at some point. But all that to say is, if you reach out to us and you want free broadheads, it's like, well, have you killed anything with our heads? Like, do you even know what they are? Like, do you have experience with them? And
why do you want them?
Why do you want them?
That should be your question.
And the coolest thing the coolest thing about our relationship, one, like I said earlier, that relationship we have just in general about hunting, but two, the fact that Brandon and I designed this. Basically, we designed this thing to crush bull elk. Just hammer bone and crush bull elk. It's not your typical, right? It's not your typical whitetail. It's not your typical whitetail head, but once you realize what this thing's doing, what it's capable of, I think that and Brandon and I fully feel that's why we launched this thing. Is we feel this is the most ethical thing you can screw on the end of on the end of an arrow, if not the most ethical projectile you can actually shoot an animal with.
Yeah.
Because of what it does. But what's your experience with them? We talked real briefly when we just opened this thing up about the deer you killed and stuff like that. But
add in there how we met, because that was the first question.
I got it all right here. So the reason why is because you see all these big deer that I have here, and I promise you, I probably have 5 deer that would go over 170 that I have shot and either hit, the shoulder or somewhere, and they've deflected, or I have not got penetration. And these are deer that I've, like you said, have a long-term relationship with, and you run it.
Right.
Then you never see them again, and you don't know. They're dead somewhere or something.
Right.
So I've shot 5 deer over 170 that I have not recovered. So when you get into that, and we're talking about shooting Kansas deer that are, 280 pounds. I mean, big shoulder deer. That you can shoot in the shoulder and you're not going to get anything with.
Right.
And don't mean to aim for a shoulder, but that's anything can happen. I can show you multiple videos that's happened to me with. So I was looking for penetration and kills. You get one shot, you're waiting this whole time. I want to melt right through a deer. I don't want no problems.
Right.
So penetration was my goal from the beginning. So that's what led me to reaching out and finding the Annihilator. Then, I still, even me bow hunting so many years, I still didn't comprehend that I was losing all my kinetic energy out of these arrows because I wanted to shoot so fast.
Right.
It was so cool for me to range 100 yards and roll my pin to 100 and drill it.
Yeah, because it's a dart.
Yeah, because it's a dart. But when it comes to shooting big deer or elk or whatever you want to shoot, you guys told me you get the bigger, heavy, stiffer, the TKOs, the 250s. As soon as I put a 250 on that 125 Annihilator, man, I don't care where you shoot them. I put 2 deer down the last day of season in Oklahoma last year, 2020, last day. The buck came in, right through the shoulder, both shoulders, melted him. He ran about 50 and fell over. Same thing with the doe. And in like 30 minutes, both of them, boom, tagged out. Yeah. And I knew right then, like, it's just...
Now, you had already shot the Annihilators before we talked to you in terms of spine and started adjusting some stuff. So, what, like, as a whitetail hunter, we talk to whitetail hunters all the time, and a lot of times it's like, oh, it's too small. It's too small. It's too small. How did you, like, succumb to your first purchase? And getting them
to be honest, I didn't think they were so small, to be honest. And when I got them...
Did you research them online, or were you in a shop, or did you see them in person?
I think I was in a...
Did you just buy them online, like kind of sight unseen? And
I really don't even remember, to tell you the truth. I just remember getting them and I was like, man, they're tiny. You know, I thought they were super tiny. But with that, you know, even my guys thought they were tiny, and everybody wants cut. Yeah. Everybody wants cut. But the main thing that I seen with these, even though they were smaller, your smaller 100s, wherever you put that arrow, dude, it's going. It's the most accurate broadhead ever shot in my life.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you right now, I videoed 2 years ago, my staff member, Keith Hayden, he has Southern Plains Taxidermy here in Oklahoma.
Okay.
Dude, he's good. He came up to hunt in Oklahoma, up north, because he's from down south with me. I said, yeah, man, I got some bucks coming in. Put him in the blind. I'm videoing. 2 bucks come in at 20, and there's a creek right behind him, and this buck comes in. He's like, I'm like, there he is, you know, get him. And I'm filming, and he takes this Annihilator, and I mean, right in the heart. I mean, heart shot. This buck goes 20 yards, jumps straight up in the air, and lands in the creek. That quick.
Wow.
Yeah, and that was on video. And when we talked to the guys about it, even my guys, it's like, with those littler broadheads, yeah, you might not have the cut, but man, it don't matter what the cut is. If you put it in their heart, if you're aiming for the heart, that's where you're hitting them.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So, but now you guys changed a lot of that with the XLs.
Mm-hmm. We did. Yeah, we got a bigger cut.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny, I look at it and I go from a measurement standpoint, the standard Annihilator 100 grain and 125, the cut diameter is 0.91 inches. So our largest broadhead, the XL, is
just over an inch.
It's just over an inch. It's an inch and a 16th.
And to us,
which is 1.065.
Yeah. And for us, it's massive. Like for us, like
when you hold the two next to each other, they look significantly different, don't they?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But on paper, you know, your cut difference is like, man, really? It's so small.
Yeah.
It's so small. It's an optical thing, man. And here's what we did with that.
Can we wear some 2XLs?
I know, right? Let me get on that, brother. You know, but it's funny because that scoop is exactly the same.
Yep.
There's nothing different. You can fit our standard head inside the XL with the exact profile, the exact angle, the exact scoop is the exact same. The only difference is those blades extrude out a little bit further. Yep. And here's the difference, though. You're right. We didn't want to come out with that XL. We did it for guys, you know, that would roll their eyes and go, "Oh, it's too tiny, it's too small, or whatever."
Yeah.
And I just can't shoot, you know, something that small. And they wouldn't give it a try, and they wouldn't listen to the science. They wouldn't listen to the years of testing, you know, and the real world evidence of this head. So we came out with the XL, to be honest, to kind of like
shut everybody's
mouth about it. Yeah. And just say, fine, we'll give you what you want. Yeah. But here's the thing, we started testing it, we started shooting animals with it, and it's like, holy shit, dude. That's putting a 2-inch hole all the way through your damn animal. The other one puts about 1.5 inch hole all the way through your animal. Mm-hmm. I mean, these are holes you fucking stick your fingers in and go like this, you know? It looks like a drill bit goes through them.
Yeah, so that's one thing I wanted to touch on too, with the cut and people, you know, saying it don't have a cut. Another thing was people saying, where's the blood trail? Where's all the blood on my arrow? Where's all the blood on my fleshing?
Right.
And I even thought the same thing until you came and hunted with me last year.
Right.
You shot a doe, and I watched it just drop.
Yeah.
And we walk up on a doe, and there's blood everywhere, and then we pick up his arrow, no blood on the shaft.
None.
And then he explained it to me. When it hits, it creates the hole, lets it no drag, nothing's touching the arrow. That means that's why there's no blood on your arrow.
Right.
No drag. It's blowing through deer.
Right.
Or any animal.
Right.
Yeah.
That's it, man.
So I didn't even understand that until he explained it to me, man.
It's such... So it's you know, for the people, because we haven't, this is the first year we're actually going to launch marketing for the people that that have never heard of Annihilator, it is such an outside the box broadhead. I'm literally, and we're not knocking broadhead companies. Brandon and I are always professional about it, but it almost doesn't belong in the category of broadheads. It is so different in what it does. Like just today when you guys are setting up cameras, I was talking to Brandon, I was answering a guy that says, hey, I want to get these things razor sharp. How do I do it? But that's how traditional broadheads kill, by hemorrhaging alone.
Right.
We're pitched, our angle of degree of pitch is at the end of the broadhead, and it's pitched at 30 degrees, so that our broadhead, the edges will never, they'll never roll over. A lot of guys don't realize, like we talked about, you know, when you're launching arrows that are underspine and they're too fast for how much load you're putting on them, you're flexing the arrow the whole way down to the target. Then you have a mechanical event. That's why they call them mechanicals, as they open up. Now that's opening and shifting, and something doesn't happen, and then you get that deflection off a bone. What makes our broadhead unique, like going back to what you were talking about, that the reason why you don't see that blood on there is because the hide, it's going through so fast and it's shoveling mass out of the way. The hide does not have a chance to collapse on the arrow shaft. For most arrows that are in the like upper 200s, like 270s to even 260s, 270s, 280s and above, that head's wedging so much mass, the hide doesn't even touch until the back of the arrow.
Right.
And that's where some of the other magic that happens with that broadhead, you know, it traps and entrains air. It moves air through the animal's cavity. It pumps them up and flattens them on the way out. And it's literally like combining what a broadhead is known to do with what a rifle currently does. And we married the two together, and we're giving bow hunters the best of both systems. And that's literally what the
minus the supersonic speed.
Yeah, you don't have to have the speed.
We don't kill animals through
ripping and tearing
flesh like a bullet would, you know.
Man, the concussion that broadhead hits them with would kill them alone.
Oh,
just the trauma going when it hits and it's going up.
And to me, like, that's true cavitation.
Yep.
And cavitation for most people, it's not a bullet, you know, that literally is creating shock in the animal. It's not what we're talking about. It's different. It's air pressure moving in and out of that cavity of that animal, atmospheric pressure being sucked in, it doesn't have to be in massive amounts in order to create a significant event inside the animal, if that makes sense. We were able to measure it, you know, and you can read more about this on our website, but we actually hired third-party engineers to help us understand this, because him and I are not, you know, we knew what this broadhead was going to do. We had a lot of assumptions with it, and to get the scientists involved and to really understand what it actually was doing, probably a little bit of luck there that we just landed on some of what we had actually physically proven in terms of cavitation in this head. And we'll spend some more time this year actually investing in some marketing behind that science, and whether there or not there's super cavitation going on and real cavitation. But we trap and entrain air. We, on a 5.5 inch pressure wave, we create a high pressure wave on impact into a material density of what would be equal to a white-tailed deer. Using my arrow at the time, it was a 470 grain arrow traveling at, 450 grain arrow traveling at 270 feet per second. And on impact,
with a 100 grain annihilator,
we created a 5.59 inch pressure wave, high pressure wave, followed by a 7 point something, almost 8 inch
vacuum.
Vacuum on the backside.
Yeah.
And it was just like, okay, now what is that again?
Yeah.
Can you please explain this to me? And the way that it was explained to us is, it's kind of like taking a hammer and hitting them on the front end. That's that high pressure wave, and then that vacuum, it's just sucking air from the outside, and it's moving it in, but it's forcing it in two different directions. And so we're like, all right, that sounds super cool. And the reason why we did that test is because some of the first animals we killed, a couple of them we shot in the shoulder intentionally, and we opened them up, we skinned them out, and there's bloodshot all the way back to their ass. And we're like, okay, how do you get bloodshot?
You're shooting axis deer.
It was an axis deer, so it was a smaller animal, to be fair.
But it's T-bone straight through the shoulder.
As dead center in the shoulder as you can imagine, and bloodshot all the way back to its ass. And it's like, okay, how did that even happen? Like, I've never seen
the inside of the animal.
On the inside of the animal.
Yeah, it was on the upside too. It didn't lay on the blood. It was on the upside. My buddy started skinning it out, and I was standing over the top of him, and it's to her ribs, and there's a trail of it coming back, basically to her flank.
Wow.
Yeah.
It was incredible. Yeah. That's when we went and hired the engineer, because we're like, hey, actually it was That was money well spent, I think, because I think that fueled us to really know that there was something proven about the difference in what our head is doing inside of an animal, because animals were dying faster. When you shoot, like, when the average hunter goes out, like out west, right? A good Western hunter shoots how many animals a year? 3? A good Western hunter.
Yeah, 4 or 5 maybe.
4 or 5 maybe.
Deer, elk,
if you're the
antelope.
Yeah. But if you're out where you live, man, and even back east, you guys are killing quite a few animals a year. And I didn't even realize that. I thought I was a decent hunter. I mean, I knew it wasn't like the best hunter going into this thing. Yeah. I was more the business side of this venture. But, when you kill 10 animals with the Annihilator, you're going to watch 8 or 9 fall within sight. I mean, that's just what it does. Yeah. That's what the Annihilator does. It's what it's meant to do, is increase animal recovery. And it's because of surface area, cutting surface area. You could take a round ball, a 50 caliber round ball, and it would do the same thing. The problem is that's just not going to penetrate out of a bow or a crossbow at the speeds that we have, right? It's not going to pierce the hide and travel all the way through that animal, right?
But if you look at the steer right.
Right.
There's a reason why there's dimples on golf balls, is
right.
to kick the air off so it can stay in the trajectory it was launched.
Right. So on impact, if you were to actually hold an Annihilator and look at the back of it, it's a lot like a round ball.
It's
just greater surface area. And most people were like, oh man, like that thing will never fly when they looked at it. And when we were creating this company, that was the first thing that we were worried about. Does this fly? Because we knew greater surface area would kill that animal. It would increase lethality, over whatever anything else does, because we're not just creating razor blade slits with some pencil hole in it. It's actually boring out a hole inside the cavity of that animal.
Yeah.
And just in general, the bigger the wound, the fat, increase in lethality.
Yeah, and with this, like, you can't even see it. Like, it's doing so much damage inside that you don't even know about.
Oh, it literally looks like
you open it up.
It looks like a blender went off.
Yeah.
And so
it's like throwing a hammer through them.
It literally. And so the Broadhead is the main thing that we wanted, and it was over. A friend had lost a bull, and the biggest thing was having a Broadhead that would leave a wound channel open. And to this day, I think we're the only Broadhead that, like, we tout that the wound channel will never close. Yeah. You shoot a pig hide, it snaps it apart and doesn't. We've had taxidermists call us and they're like, "Dude, this thing's a nightmare. I gotta stitch this thing 360 degrees because there's a hole." One taxidermist I was on social media with, taxing back and forth, he almost called Fish and Game because he thought he got shot with a bullet and was arguing with the customer that came in. He's like, "Dude, I'm not touching it until we call Fish and Game."
Yeah.
And he's like, "Dude, you shot this with a rifle." He's like, "I swear to God, I'll show you the Broadhead." Brought it in, the guy's like, "There's no way." But then they ended up figuring it out. But the taxidermist called me because he's also an archer, so I had a long combo with him and got him set up. But
that's cool.
So going back to right, you spend all this time with these deer, right? One thing Brandon and I pride ourselves on is the fact that the Broadhead is insanely lethal, right? It flies awesome. It is insanely, like, the durability is off the charts.
Yes.
I'm not knocking Broadhead. There's not a Broadhead in the world that can compete with us in durability.
Right.
And like the fact that the penetration and stuff is just through the roof. So as a whitetail hunter, right, you spend so much time on this one deer, right?
Yeah.
Why would you want to sacrifice what you have in front of you for that one opportunity when we like to call this Broadhead is the insurance policy? You put it too far back, you're going to have a hole in that animal where a lot of guys out here will get dogs, and I don't know what you guys charge for dogs, but you can run a dog and find it because it's going to leave trace out. Right, put it in the lungs, it's going to do a job.
Yeah.
But now, move it over and put it in the front. Right, you put it in a shoulder. I would venture to say, pound for pound, going through hard substrate, there's not a Broadhead in the world that will stay with the Annihilator. As soon as the Annihilator breaks the plane, so just the head gets through whatever the hard object is. Now there's nothing slowing the arrow down because the head is boring a hole through that object. So now there's nothing grabbing the arrow shaft. People are like, well, we're not shooting cardwoods, we're not shooting plywood.
Right.
I said, no, you're not. But you're shooting in the event that you hit dense material like a shoulder bone, let alone going through 2 of them. Now your Broadhead has to hit, you get 30 inches of drag, and that's hard drag going on that arrow shaft to the next object, right? You got what? On a big deer, maybe 14 inches, maybe between the shoulder blades, 12, 14 inches between the shoulder blades, maybe even a little bit more on elk, even worse.
Right.
Now now you're slowing down so much to hit that next shoulder bone in the event that
That's
you get
definitely going to stop.
it's going to stop it.
Yeah.
So once the Annihilator, and Brandon and I are going to do some testing this year, once the Annihilator breaks that plane, the arrow keeps going on the speed that it hit the animal at. As soon as that broadhead breaks a plane, now it's going that same speed until it hits the next object. If the Annihilator gets through that, there's no friction here, there's no friction here. So the penetration is off the chart. And you start stacking weight behind this thing and get it and make sure you have a setup, because it flies so well. We always tell guys, it flies so well, it'll tell you what's wrong with your setup. It's asking you to do something. It's not telling you to change your setup because it flies bad.
Right.
It flies so damn well. It'll, like, you can go, well, like we were talking about, you spend time at TAC, right? Guys will shoot long range, and there'll be a group of guys, and they're like, "Oh, dude, I told you, man. I told these things fly." And the guy said, "Oh, I couldn't get it to go." And then we'll have a conversation with him, and you find out that one, the guy's usually under spine, or two, he's never walked back to in his arrow rest.
Right.
And you get him to walk back to in their arrow rest, and they fly like they fly unreal. So it, in essence, it is the insurance policy of broadheads. Like and guys are like, "Well, how can it be an insurance policy if the blood trail is not that great?" One, it's like the thing about
blood trail's off the hook.
The thing
go kill 20 animals and tell me the blood trail's not good.
Yeah, and the thing about it is we don't have long cutting blades. Long cutting blades are what causes hemorrhaging, because you're slicing and going through so many capillaries. When they refill, that's where the blood comes out.
Right.
But here's the thing is, if you put that broadhead where it needs to go, it's going to do the job faster than anything you've ever seen before, because of that cavitation and what it's doing. But it's, like I said, it's also that insurance policy for when you don't. Like,
how many times have you heard the stay away from the shoulder? Like, hunters, stay away from the shoulder. Don't aim at the
and
shoulder.
how many times have you been up in a stand and these guys presented perfectly square or perfectly broadside 90-degree shots? Like, it doesn't happen all the time.
Well, here's the thing. I know some really big names. They're like, we shoot these broadheads, some expandables, but we're shooting center body. We're always going to shoot center body, and that's not. Like, if you can shoot the shoulders and blow right through them, that deer's not going anywhere, because you're where you want to hit, so it's almost created people to think, stay away from the shoulder, which you should stay away from the high part, but you should still be tucking it in, and blowing them out.
Shouldn't be afraid to go for that crease.
Yeah.
And if you pin both of their legs, both their front shoulders, they're not going anywhere anyway.
Yeah.
If you're penetrating.
What's the, so real quick, what's the, have you noticed a sound difference when they get hit with the Annihilator? Does it sound any different?
I really probably haven't paid attention. We can listen on my videos.
Yeah. So a lot of the comments we get, guys are like, "Dude, it sounds like someone's crushing a soda can with a sledgehammer," and that's what it's doing. Is it's blowing that hole open so fast and inducing air at such a high speed. It's in, like, layman's terms, going back to what Brandon was saying about that high pressure wave. It's literally like, so take a softball, right? Softball's probably about 4.5, 5. It's about that size, right? Take a softball, and how fast is your bow, Bobby? You're like me, little T-Rex arms, so we're not that fast.
T-Rex arms.
What are we, like 260, right in there,
270, I think.
So imagine if I launch a softball at you at 270 feet per second, it went inside your cavity. Yeah. It's going to pump you up. Like, it's going to jack you up really fast, and when it comes out the other side, right, it's like taking a tire, right, getting it over inflated and then popping it with a knife on both sides. Air comes out both sides. That's exactly what the Annihilator is doing. So having the ability to do that through the any part of the animal you shoot. We've had guys say, "Dude, I've got shot elk, dude, and I've never seen, like, we don't find them, but people have shot them with our head, and they're like, dude, they're going and bedding up in like 200 and 300 yards, which is unheard of. They just don't do that. Like, elk are usually like gone, like ridges. You're not finding them again." Oh, yeah. But they're going and bedding up because they can't. That pressure inside of them has just tore them up so bad that. Yeah.
All right, brothers. Back from break.
Yeah.
We had to take a break and check the cameras. It was kind of an abrupt stop, but you know what?
Sometimes
we realized that you weren't. Oh, dude, I got some cream on my plate.
Chasing that cream.
Oh, man.
You see how I just went with it?
I love Annihilator.
Yeah. Shit.
That's awesome.
Hey, you know what, brother? I think it's time for a shot.
It is. Yeah. It is.
All right, let's get these.
Line them up.
We got the Al Capone right here. Ooh, yeah.
Al Capone.
Yep, my wife went to that prison.
Oh, yeah? Is that how you met her?
That's how I met her, man. What prison was it?
Most people meet in online dating these days. You met your wife in prison?
That's right.
Yeah. Like she was a U.S. Olympic swimmer. Hi, Bobby.
That's not.
Oh, thank you, sir. I get the Al Capone special?
Yeah.
That's funny, dude.
See, he knew that one was coming, so he gave me the frosted glasses. Not really frosted, it's just still dirty.
Yep.
That's great.
Yep.
All right, folks, so we're doing a little bit of crown. Apple crown because Bobby Glenn likes it sweet.
Mm-hmm.
And
You think you think he's sweet enough.
I'm pretty sweet. I just
if
don't.
you hang out with this guy and you have one meal with him, he gets sweet tea. But then when
Yeah.
you have 2 and 3 and 4, he always gets sweet tea or sweet coffee
Yeah.
or sweet something. He's a sweetie.
I'm sweet.
Yeah. And we're not proponents of alcoholism
No.
or alcoholics ourselves. It's just one of those things. It's a good time.
Kind of like a congratulations, man. We had a really good week.
And we had
We're
a
celebrating right now.
We were so beat up. Like when I went to his room this morning at 10:30, and he probably went to bed at 11 last
shit,
night, maybe
man.
somewhere around
Yeah.
11:30. When I went to his room, he was literally wiped out. He opened the door and was like, and I wanted to keep his on his shoes. I'm like, are you okay, bro? Like you.
Hey, calm down over there. We're on a podcast, damn it.
Shooting video.
Jeez.
There's always the one guy, right? There's always the one guy.
Little Bobby Jr. just came in.
Yeah.
Yeah, little Bobby Jr. We should have just
But
asked
you know
him.
what?
He-
He's getting ready. He's getting that boat ready so we can go out and go
And
fishing.
he's got a deer up here. Bobby, talk about that real quick.
Yeah.
Well, we got to
Yeah,
take
let's
a
take
shot,
a
yeah,
shot.
yeah.
Cheers, boys.
Yeah. Cheers.
gentlemen.
Yep.
Yeah.
Had a great time this week.
Micah's first Eastern turkey.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh yeah, it's good stuff. Get my beer.
Let's slide that one back there. Just put in the ashes.
Yeah.
There it is, brother. Well,
Yeah, good week. End to a good week. This was Bobby's surprise, and we were like, the way the week was going, we're like, okay, there's not pigs coming in. There's not. It's getting so windy. Like, how are we going to get on birds and all this stuff? And we're like, we almost felt like it broke your heart that we weren't super jacked up about going. And it was like when you said it, I'm like, dude, got it. As a broadhead company, we're like, man, we just want to lay the hammer down. What else did you have in store for us that we didn't get to do this time?
We're gonna go chase some hogs with the dogs, which you can't shoot them because of the dogs. But I just wanted you guys to come down here and just have the best experience you could have. So
yeah.
that was pretty cool. Chase turkeys. The hogs didn't come into the stands. We got our boys from Element. Got us some stands. Got you guys up in them.
Mm-hmm.
Elevate.
Oh,
Yeah. I think that was just that was a hiccup.
that was it.
Yeah. From
Right,
Elevate,
yeah. So our boys gave us some stands from Elevate. Got you guys up in them. Got some corn on the ground, and the pigs just didn't come in. But man, the sets were sweet.
Oh man, you
The
couldn't.
sets were sweet.
The
Yeah.
sets were
Killer
unreal.
footage.
The sunsets and being out there, and it's one of those things. You're coming
It's
from
fun, man.
coming from where we're at, and then you come out here. It's like we're from Idaho, and like I said, I grew up in the hunting the mountains, the Sierra Nevada range in California. It goes up over 10,000 feet, so it's really vertical. We come out here, it's all flat, but man, when these fields come up out here, that green pops up, and you just see that sunset. We had cloud cover. Oh my God, some of the pictures we got are just.
Unreal.
This is why I understand why people fall in love with places like this and they just don't want to leave, right? Minus the fact that you get tornado warnings coming in next
Yeah.
week.
and we're walking around trying to get these boys some turkeys, and I found an Arrowhead. That was cool.
That was
Yeah.
bitching.
Yeah, that was pretty
Oh,
cool.
for sure, man.
So that was the first, and then we found
The first Annihilator ever.
They were actually, that one actually looked like it would annihilate.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I got one of our partners. He sent me a Spartan broadhead from 600 BC that actually was almost like a little Annihilator. I was kind of blown away.
He sent it to you
He sent it to me. Bought it for
to
me.
keep.
Yeah, I have it.
Wow.
It's in my truck. Back home.
Wow.
It's a longer broadhead, probably about 1.5 inches, but it's like not even a 1/2 inch wide. It's tiny, man.
Is it 3-blade?
No. Oh, it is. Yeah, 3-blade.
Really?
But guess what? It's got a channel in the front with raised up in the back. No joke, and you can sharpen it flat on a stone. I was like, you've got to be kidding me. We'll add a photo in here. It's one of those that goes on the end of an arrow that just kind of goes in the back. I don't know. I would call it a glue-on today, but
Well,
what
they did is instead of splitting the wood just one way, they probably split it 3 ways and shoved it down in there.
That's probably what they did.
So, you know, the reason
it was badass.
Part of our broadhead design, the reason why that's like that, right, is to kick blood and mass off the spear handle.
Yeah.
There's a reason why in like the world wars and stuff we had, you could not have a spaded bayonet. It has to be a thin blade. It's almost like I'm going to go to war with you, but if I stab you, I need your doctors and nurses to be able to stitch you up.
Isn't that stupid?
But think about it, right?
Yeah, you're at war.
Send me to war and give me rolls.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I'm saying? You're trying to kill me. We're gonna.
So now, take that theory, what I just told you, and apply it to what our broadhead's doing, right? There's a reason why our broadhead is designed like that. Because when we want it to go through an animal, we don't want it to seal up. Not knocking broadheads, every other broadhead, the wound channel is a field point, whether it's flattened in its tube blade, it's a field point with razor blades.
Right.
Ours produces that wedging, that mass removal, that can't be stitched up. It's almost like we were talking about earlier, the taxidermy thing. Now take it back to rules of war and engagement. You can't have that spaded tip that's bladed out like that because it produces too much injury. Cool, huh?
Yeah. It's I don't know. I don't think there should be any kind of rules. In war, yeah.
Well, let's just march in front of each other at 10 feet and get on a knee, and then everyone shoots. And if you're in the lane of a bullet, then you get it.
Dude, there's no way. I don't care who I was fighting for. I'd stand out there and just aim your gun and shoot in a line of people. Like, no, I'm not in that war.
I'm gonna sit out of this one.
Yeah, I'm gonna go around. I'm gonna sneak up somewhere and get you.
Okay, then go back to the same thought. Not knocking mechanical broadheads because we're a fixed blade broadhead. But the only reason you're shooting a mechanical broadhead is because you're told to shoot it and everyone else told you to shoot it. So same thing, you stand in a line and take a bullet 10 feet from somebody, hope you live.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, right.
Not knocking broadheads, everything being equal, when you try something different and it's outside the box, like you, right? Going back, how many deer have you taken with our broadhead now?
At least 5 or 6 for sure. Yeah.
You, and then your family and then your friends, so you're probably up to what, like 10?
Probably. Yeah.
Probably 10, right? With a fixed blade that when we launched, we got scrutinized because everyone said it's too small. Yeah. But it's dropping the, like, think about it. We always tell guys when we go to the like TAC events and stuff and we're talking to, whitetail guys over the community, we designed this to absolutely crush 1,000-pound bull elk in the shoulders.
And that blows people's minds because everybody that comes up, even at the booth, they're like, they look at this small broadhead and they think it's maybe for small game or just whitetail, but it was invented for a giant elk.
But here's what's crazy, right? You just stand in our booth, and you'll give them the spiel. And you're telling them, hey, designed for 1,000-pound bull elk. What it does to bone, there's nothing else like it. Give them the spiel, and they'll still look at you. But how will it work on a Kansas whitetail?
Yeah, right.
And literally, you're like, if your animal is on its best day, and even if it was a 350-pound Canadian whitetail on its best day, is a third the size of what we designed this broadhead for. So we tell them, it will make quick work of your deer, trust me.
Yeah, a lot of people are just like that. They will just keep asking questions, they're not satisfied, and they don't understand.
But that's
to be fair to them though, when people walk into our booth, as different as the mechanical was when it came out, of course I wasn't, paying attention to the hunting industry at the time. I wasn't there, but I would imagine, that was like totally different. Oh, wait, what do you mean it expands? Well, why would you want that? Oh, larger cut diameter. Oh, that makes more sense. Larger cut diameter is going to, be a little more forgiving in wherever I hit inside that thoracic cavity of that animal, right?
Well, the theory is it's going to kill them faster.
Right.
It's the theory.
Right.
It's the theory behind it.
I mean, so here Annihilator comes, and, we kind of reinvent the wheel, so to speak, of a broadhead of something unique and different, and we put a small package with a large cutting surface area
and more drag. So we have broadhead.
So we have
way more drag than anybody
less
else.
cut diameter, but we have more cutting surface area than a 3-inch mechanical.
Yeah.
And so we remove more mass out of that animal than any broadhead in the world.
Yeah.
And
I don't know. Hold on.
You got like a double stone because.
I don't know if this camera will pick this up or not, but I just hopped out here to grab this. Do you think it'll grab that? Mm-hmm. So this is cutting surface area. It's not a field point with razor blades. We're actually boring holes in these animals. And that's the difference of what we do. We don't allow the wound channel to collapse. It actually blows the hole open, allows the arrow to go through the hole behind it unscathed.
Yeah, so a little side note there, but all I have to say is that the cutting surface area is different. So when you walk into our booth, guys kind of get their wigs blown back a little bit. And it's funny, you can kind of see the wheels spinning. And a lot of them, Micah and I have done this long enough now, where we watch them, they can't buy in the first combo, many of them, because their brain hurts. They're like, is it true that everything you're saying right now, like, is this real? And then they go walk away and they'll pull it up on YouTube, or they'll
stop at our
call
video
somebody, or they'll watch that video for freaking 10 minutes and they won't say anything.
I'm talking to you, but I'm paying attention to the guy who just walked away, because I know he's going to turn around and come back. And it's not like we're pitching him, but we play these videos with these deer getting smoked through the shoulders. We have one where a doe's out there at like 30 yards and it blows through her shoulder so fast it's skipping up a road and launches off the berm, and all you see is the smoke when it leaves. And the guys are like, they'll turn and look at each other and be like, that went through both of your shoulders. And we're like, yeah, that's...
And the arrow's like 60 to 80 yards behind the
And we're like, that's normal.
Like, how is that possible?
That's normal. But for them, right, that's not normal, because like you were going back to what you said earlier about the whitetail guy, you're trained to stay off that shoulder, right?
Yeah.
When that quartering 2-shot on a 250-pound animal, excuse me, that's probably the best shot you can actually take, because you're going to drive through shoulders, you're going to buckle them, and you're going to hit possibly the heart and the lungs and maybe even the liver on the way out. Like a quartering 2-shot is a phenomenal shot, but you have to... Let's keep in mind that it's not just the broadhead. You have to have a system with that broadhead to make it work. You can't put it on launch a 70-pound bow with a 400 spine arrow and have that thing porpoising all down range and then hit with our broadhead. It's going to do this almost the same thing that another broadhead will do, because the broadhead is trying to fight to stay straight, but your arrow's all over the map. So if you're spine right,
and it's fighting for kinetic energy, because your arrow just took it all away from it.
And this is the thing we tell people,
it's like running your car with, taking all the power out of it.
This is exactly why people's wigs get blown back when they walk into their booth, because often we're not just telling them about a broadhead, we're telling them about proper spine, walk back tuning, making sure you got some good FOC on the front of your arrow, irrespective of our broadheads. Because the reality is we know what our broadheads do. We have nothing to prove to anybody. When you grab a pack of our broadheads, if you shoot one animal or two animals, that's a very limiting experience. We know when you go shoot 10 to 20 animals over the course of whatever number of years, you're going to see a consistent result. The animals die faster. You recover more animals, irrespective of shot placement. Every broadhead is going to kill when you hit the heart.
And it's like driving a V8, and if you don't put the right shaft and weight on it, it's like you're driving a V8, but you're only using 4-cylinder.
That's it.
You're not giving the broadhead its full potential.
That's it.
It's made to do.
Yeah. So think about the broadhead, right? If you put an arrow behind it, right? Our broadhead is literally like a Mack truck when it hits. Right. It's got a string of cars behind it that are loaded up, right, ready to keep on driving. If the front of that Mack truck hits a cement wall or hits something hard like bone in the arrow standpoint, the Mack truck hitting a cement wall is going to crumble. But guess what's going to happen with those arrows if nothing's grabbing the side of them? It's going to keep driving that Mack truck through whatever it hits. So that's what our broadhead is designed to do. It moves mass out of the way so the arrow keeps going.
Yeah, so that was a fun combo you and I had initially, and then Micah joined in too. You were currently shooting like a underspined arrow, in my opinion.
Yeah, it was.
And then you were shooting pretty low FOC. But what was the actual arrow you were shooting, and the whole system that you had at the time?
I don't know the weight because I'm not that technical. I'm a bow hunter.
Which arrow was it? Because I can probably.
I was shooting the Victory RIPs.
The rips.
The 350s.
Yeah, we love the rips. Yeah.
Yeah, but
another 300. Another 350s.
But it was it was the rip, not the rip TKO.
Right.
So the rip is I don't want to call out numbers, but I think that's like 8.4 grains or something like that.
The rip is lighter than the TKO.
Yeah, the TKO is like.
And the rip TKO is 8.9, and the 250 spine and 8.8 and.
And a 350. Yeah. So this is so if you don't load that up, right? We always talk about, we don't want to get into like aerodynamics and flight or anything like that, but you have to have a good amount of FOC to drive an arrow through an object, and it doesn't have to be this crazy, insane, off the deep end. You need 30% FOC to kill a 225-pound whitetail. You just don't need it. You need a good spined arrow that's out of a tuned bow. When Brandon and I talk about tuned bows, we're talking about a bow that can throw an arrow in a straight line at 5 feet in front of you so you get a bullet hole, and at 70 yards downrange, it's still hitting a 1-inch tape line out of your bow in front of you and long range. Right. That's what we're talking about when we talk about a properly spined arrow
which requires proper timing, proper rest tuning, proper spine.
Look up walkback tuning, look up French tuning. There's a bunch. Shout out to John Dudley. Knock on. He does a good video. There's a couple other ones out there that are really good, but take a look at that, and you can learn about walkback tuning if you don't know. Even though as a whitetail hunter, most of your shots are in that 40-yard range. If you're
like 20, right?
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like 20, but
40 and under,
but out to 40 as that maximum, and that's probably what most. I would say that's probably what you practice at, right, Bobby? Probably 40 yards somewhere in there for your 20-yard shots.
I practice it all, but yes, that's basically your money from 50 down.
So most guys are like, hey, I got my bow paper tuned and it's legit, but then we'll talk to them. They haven't walked back tuned. Well, guess what? Legit at 40, your arrow is still trying to fight to stay on course because your arrow rest isn't in the center of where your arrow is launching, so it's casting out off of a 1-inch tape line. So if you do that walkback tuning, your arrow spine's right. Your bow shooting well, that broadhead loaded up will pretty much go through anything. Most guys and gals are shooting in the 60s and 70 pounds, and now all these bows are insanely fast. But what a lot of people don't realize is when you load that arrow up with a 400 spine arrow at 70 pounds, that arrow is flexing so bad at launch that it's doing this and doing this. That's why you see that rotation like this. It's actually not spinning like this. It's flexing side to side and flexing like this, which makes you see this downrange. And you can not, like I said, being a whitetail hunter, not knocking eastern guys that are hunting, hunting whitetail. You see that on almost every single. I could watch a video and say that guy's never walked back tunes. He's underspined.
We've seen it at TAC ourselves between me and you. When I switched from my 250s because I didn't want to shoot my hunting arrows downrange. Back to the 300s or 350s, and I'm shooting downrange, and I seen one just go. And when they're doing they're just.
And you can see them too when they hit the target. Like when you shoot in, we used to tell guys a cool way to do it to see is shoot your hunting setup with lighted nocks. Go out into a field in case you lose some, and shoot them at night at 60 and 70 yards. Highlight the target and launch.
Shoot even 20 yards.
Yeah, even 20 yards. You can see it when it hits the target. It's still bouncing around because all that energy that's stored up.
It's not driving through the target.
That's a problem. It's not driving through the target. It's not driving through the back of the broadhead. And what's so unique about the Annihilator is you take the Annihilator off of an arrow shaft. I always joke around with Brandon and I tell our customers, it's a damn boat anchor. Like it's a paperweight. Leave it on a desk, it's a paperweight. It is useless. But when you screw that thing onto an arrow and have that arrow line up behind that broadhead and that shield happens, when you hit an animal, there is nothing more ruthless when it goes through bone. Or hide or substrate or whatever, because it's trapping that air, moving air through the cavity, and it's so efficient at going through objects with zero drag on the arrow shaft. People don't realize a normal arrow for every hunter, whether you're male or female, is about 29 to 30 inches long, say give or take your nock, say if you're shooting 28, if you're shooting shorter draw, whatever. 30 inches of an arrow times ½ inch around, you have legitly about 60 inches of raw drag that you're trying to get through an animal. Right. Now imagine plowing into a shoulder.
Well, add veins to that too.
And veins in your nock. Right. Now plowing into a shoulder, and there's nothing moving that out of the way. It's your field point, that's all it is a sharpened field point, not knocking other broadheads, but it's a sharpened field point, whether it's a chisel tip, cut on contact, whatever it is. It's going through, and now as soon as it pokes through, it's building up friction on the arrow shaft. So your projectile, which is your arrow, your veins, your nock, and your broadhead, your overall projectile is slowing down going through the animal, where the Annihilator, the only thing that gets slowed down is the broadhead itself. Right. The arrow drafts behind the broadhead, so when it hits bone, as soon as the broadhead breaks the plane, it's punched a hole big enough for the arrow to go through. That's it. So now there's zero friction, 60 inches of raw drag, that's gone. Mm-hmm. Yep. Heck yeah.
That's yours.
No, that's yours, brother.
No, okay.
Yeah, that's it. Cloudy Magoo.
Yeah. I don't want nothing to do with Cloudy Magoo, but I'll cheers to you, brother. Chubby Dickens. Man, if we take 2 or 3 more of those, this podcast's gonna get garbage.
Yeah, we're
wrapping up though.
So let's talk about like we talked about earlier. What being a whitetail guy, an eastern hunter, even though you're in the central United States, Midwest, right? Mm-hmm. What did you shoot before? Like, what?
Even though you're an eastern hunter in the Midwest,
yeah, like,
that's the alcohol.
No, when I say eastern, I mean like
I'm just giving you
shit, eastern.
Man.
It's like that philosophy: the whitetail, the fast arrows, the mechanical broadheads.
Right.
That's that eastern concept versus being out west, where we shoot fixed blade broadheads for the most part, heavy weighted arrows, heavy poundage bows, long shots.
Right.
What did you shoot before? And tell us your experiences with what you had before.
Yeah, arrow. I want to know about you. The arrow you shot, what we went to, and then what was, and then of course previous broadheads, whatever.
Yeah. So basically, I was shooting the same arrow with the same nocks. I was shooting the expandable, the whitetail special, Grim Reaper, and they put animals down. But if you get any
what was your
problem,
arrow though? What was the grain? Well, you say you don't know the grain weight, but you had a 100 grain tip, right?
100 grain.
And a 350 spine.
And not, like I said, not knocking. Let's go back to this is the conversation Brandon and I have when we go to TAC with like 500 archers. What's your FOC? What's your arrow? I don't know. I want to shoot.
You had 100 grain on a RIP TKO. Your FOC is 11-12% max.
Why do you shoot it? Why 100 grain? Why not a 125? You're pushing an 80-pound bow with a 400 spine arrow. You're already under spine. If you put a 125, you're going to be way under spine.
Right.
Stiffen your spine up. Put a 125 for more kinetic energy and more FOC out of your 80-pound bow, and watch how much more penetration you get.
Yeah,
you're losing it. Like it's
got an 80-pound bro.
No, I'm just saying in general. You're shooting. You talk to these guys.
Damn, son.
That goes back to the whitetail guys. Mm-hmm. It makes sense, right? If I could shoot a 65-pound bow and then go up to a 70, my arrow's going to get there faster. The animal's not going to have a chance to jump the string, right? Mm-hmm. But when you load up an underspined arrow and you go up in poundage on your bow, now you've made that arrow, drastically underspined. It's flexing even worse than it was before. You're actually more efficient if you take your 75-pound bow and dump it down to 60 pounds and still shoot that 100 grain. You're actually probably going to out-penetrate going through there because now your arrow is driving through the object straight.
Because it's proper spine.
Yeah. Proper spine.
So what did that setup?
Yeah, so what did you don't know your FOC, but what were you shooting? Like, what do you think?
I was shooting the 100 grain Grim Reaper,
mm-hmm.
With just some victory arrows.
Mm-hmm.
And just super fast, and I was blowing through some deer if you didn't hit bone, but like that one experience with that big deer, I hit him, I pulled my shot just a little bit, hit him in the shoulder, and I've hit a bunch of deer in the shoulder, so that's what, drives you to a fixed blade with, heavy spine.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So what happened when you called us and you were like, I feel like we're leading the witness. Is that fair? Can we lead the witness?
I think I'm going to jail.
Well, actually, after the shenanigans I witnessed.
Hey, can you come get me?
Yeah.
No, but that was the case.
But you hit us up and you were like, "Hey, man, like I'm having a hard time with my current arrow setup." And Micah and I were like, "Hey, man, we shoot for victory. We these arrows. It's your spine. It's not the arrow." And a lot of hunters want to blame stuff like.
Yeah, you can even
the manufacturer.
You can grab that deer right there, and we'll talk about that because that's what it was. Just
this deer right here.
Yeah,
absolute stud.
Yeah.
Oh. Wow.
Yeah.
So what is that score, Bobby?
181 and 5/8.
So 180 for most whitetail guys. 180 inches like a dream. That's like a dream buck. Right?
Oh, yeah.
You start pushing in the 200s. It's like that's like unfathomable
that's
for most people.
Even a dream buck for me. All the time. That was my goal the whole time, was to shoot a deer that was 180 inches. And when I shot the one that's 206, I never guessed him to be even 200. I was guessing 186 or something. But you have that in Kansas. When a place where you have big body deer, they always grow on you when you walk up because these racks don't look that big on a 300-pound deer.
Yeah, until you go up there and you grab it.
And you're like, oh my gosh, every deer I've killed up there has grown. But this is what we're talking about, is this buck that I shot here. Now I was shooting the 125 XL with a victory arrow that was underspined. And I shot him low. I was about 22 feet up in the tree, and he was probably about, I would say, 12 to 15 yards. And I mean, that's a heavy pitch. And a lot of these big deer, I mean, they'll hear the arrow come out of your bow.
Right.
I mean, I don't care what bow you have, how fast it is.
Right.
Like, a lot of big deer, so you always want to bury the pin in their heart and don't stop. You know, that's what you're focused on the whole time. And I did, and to my surprise, when I shot, like, he didn't duck, he had no clue, so it hit him right where I was aiming, no duck, so I instantly kind of hit him low. I think I barely maybe caught, I thought I hit him in the heart, but I think I just got liver, you know.
Wait, liver would be high back, wouldn't it?
Well, it's back behind the heart, just like the lungs are right there.
You
and then
right click low liver.
I thought I hit him in the heart, but he was angled, quartering towards me, just slightly.
Caught him a little bit back.
So when it hit him, it was kind of going like, if this is him here, like this, it kind of hit him like this. It was kind of just a little bit. So I thought I clipped the heart. I might have clipped the heart, and I can't tell. You know, so, but this is the deer that made me call you guys and ask about my spine, because I'm shooting the right broadhead, and on my video, when you see the arrow hit this deer, you see that my penetration, when it hits, it stopped, and you see my arrow just, you know,
flexing.
no spine.
Yeah.
That's why I think I called you. I think I called Micah.
Yeah, I think you did talk about
Yeah,
it.
so, and he told me, you know, about the TKOs and the heavy spine, and asked all my stuff, and then I ended up finding this deer, which, you know, thank God, he's a giant, gonna get him mounted.
yeah.
But then it led me on into, I shot this deer the day before Thanksgiving. Didn't even come home to my family on Thanksgiving. I stayed up there, searched all day by myself, never found him, and ended up calling a guy with a dog, and he said, man, I can't come today because it's Thanksgiving. And I'm like, I understand. But he said, I'll be there at 7 a.m. tomorrow, so I didn't even go home that night. I stayed another night.
Oh my God.
And this is an hour east of where we're staying in Kansas, you know, so that was another hour drive back, hour drive back, but he met me there, and his dog ended up going right to this deer, and I lost his blood at 70 yards. Like, when I hit him, it was trauma, because he only went 50 yards and he laid down, and I gave him 2 hours, and I walked in there, he just wasn't bleeding out because of I lost kinetic energy, it didn't drive through him.
Yeah. Well, also too, you know, thinking about what you were shooting, he probably wasn't bleeding out because the broadhead didn't produce a hole to let all that material and viscera out.
Well, yeah, because you didn't get the pass through.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if I
through
hit him low in the
head went
brisket.
through.
You know, the brisket bone. It's like your spine and your chest. And I might have clipped some of his, I know, probably didn't clip his heart, it's 'cause what he lived, but I probably clipped a brisket, lower liver, maybe one lung, I don't know. You know, so, but from seeing that on video and replaying it a million times, we ended up finding this deer, and I called Micah, and he told me, you know, about the weight and the stiffness, because I told you, you know, I'm shooting the right thing. So I had the opportunity in December, right? You left me some arrows when you came down and hunted with me.
Yeah.
And I
Some
set up
rip TKOs,
250s.
250 spines with a 75 grain collar up front.
Yep.
So if
And you put the 125 XL on that.
if Bobby screwed a
That was a
100
bad
on there,
bitch.
yeah. So
It was a bad
with
bitch.
that
It was a
125, so just
now, what is that?
so this when
It's
I
basically the same arrow that him and I shot all last
Well,
year.
I mean, what's the weight on that?
so the weight on that is
Should've been
about a
460,
460 about a 469 468 grain arrow, depending on what knock at the time we were using the old AAE knocks. Now we have new ones from Victory, but what I left you, and that's why we wanted you to shoot it. And I think you screwed a couple on and shot on the target. You're like, man, that thing's driving straight, and we're like, dude, it's that.
I never
Well, hold
changed
on.
my sight.
We
period,
shot
from shooting.
no. We shot the lighted knocks at night to prove to him that if you shoot this arrow in a stiffer spine, because listen, most shops, this is not a knock on shops, but they just go off the charts.
Yep.
And they don't include
paper tune, or you
paper
know,
tune.
or
All
how
those
fast
things-
your chronograph
yeah.
shooting.
Yeah.
all those
Dude,
things
that
are
don't
starting
matter
places.
when it comes to this animal,
And
right?
think about you not trying to keep your thought in your head, but going back to what you were talking about earlier, right? They're jumping the stream because the bullet bow's noisy, right? Load it up.
Why is it noisy?
It's noisy.
It's too light.
If you load it up, it's harder for that string to push that arrow. Makes
Right.
all the components on your bow work harder. It gets quieter.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now go back to what you're
Well,
talking
no,
about.
most shops basically they say, hey, like, thank you for buying the bow. Let's
Yeah,
get you on
dang.
paper. on paper, now you're good to go, right? And, you know, you get home, you need to go bare shaft tune, in my opinion.
Yep.
You know,
That's awesome.
At 20 and then 40 yards.
Or at minimum, just go from there and then walk back to it. That's the fast way to do it.
At a minimum. But in my opinion, a tuned bow is like, hey, the shop says you're good in terms of timing. I've got it set up for you.
Boys.
And then I've shot through
your draw length is good.
Draw length is good.
If I tuned my bow, there'd be a lot more dead stuff in here.
So let's just talk real quick. So how many? Not try to knock you as a hunter, because obviously this room and this camera is only picking up a quarter, like Brandon said earlier. There's a whole bunch here. There's a whole bunch of deer over here. There's alligators. There's all kinds of deer over in the corner. How many deer, if you had to think off the top of your head, how many deer do you think you've actually lost because of your setup with what you're shooting, and then your choice of broadhead shooting with that setup that you had at the time?
And don't include hard shots, you know, or any of that stuff. You know, perfect shots, obviously. You should have been standing over those deer.
And I'm not saying, Brendan and I will preach to everybody, this is by no means the cure all or fix all. It does give you more benefits than anything out there, in our opinion,
bro.
But
it's just like freaking hunting a deer, and they're different. Like, you have to find your own setup. You gotta figure it all out for you. You gotta tune everything. Everything's right. You gotta figure out your weight, your shaft. You know, and a lot of people are just like, they go to an archer shop or whatever, and they're like, oh, well, you're shooting 65 pounds. Well, that'll handle this arrow, 350 or whatever. This is what's gonna get you this fast. And we're putting on 100 grain because, you know what, 100 grain is what everybody's shooting. That's normal. It's in their brain.
I'm so glad you said that. That was the next question I had for you, is because we'll go and we'll be at TAC just like last weekend. We were in TAC at Oklahoma, right? All whitetail hunters, almost all of them. A couple of them here and there had gone out west. All of them. You have these monster dudes that are shooting 80-pound bows, and he's like, I shoot 100 grain. And we're like, dude, like, I don't.
With like little, like point weight added.
I
know. And we're like, dude, you are so underspined right now, you have no idea. Like,
this stuff, they could be blowing through 3 deer and finding them, all 3 of them in 10 yards if they just.
But let's be fair. Underspined in a different sense of like what target archers, you know, like, we're not talking about target archery. We're talking about killing animals. Underspined in the sense of you screw a lighted knock onto the end of your arrow, you shoot a target at night, and that thing goes like this. Okay, it's underspined. The proper arrow goes like this. Boom, and it sticks. It doesn't do this.
There's a little bit of vibration from the kinetic energy, but
that's another problem. Is, you know, a lot of, even at the tech show, you have half hunters and you have half people that just shoot target, and it's completely totally different what you're doing.
So let me ask you this, Bobby.
Well, okay. I'll argue with that in a minute when he's done. Well, shit, I'm on it.
I'm talking about killing an animal or letting your arrow flop in a target, but you're on.
Well, how about this one? Even if you're a target archer, so we shoot ready. I'm a wannabe target archer with my hunting setup. I'm not really a target guy, but I love 3D. So we go shoot redding, which in my opinion it's the best archery shoot.
Because everybody in the world,
man. Everybody in the world, the best shoot.
1600 archers.
Isn't that saying something?
You want to hold it?
But all I have to say is this. So I'm shooting the Bigfoot, or Sasquatch, or whatever you call them, at the TAC. And I'm with Shane, who's a pro shooter on our staff, Shane Warland. He's also an employee and a great friend of mine, and Micah's. And really good dude. But he's a pro shooter, good dude. We're shooting 120 yards, okay? 20-mile-an-hour wind. I know this because Shane, who is a Navy guy, is telling me it's a 20-mile-an-hour wind. I'm like, all right, it's blowing hard. So I'm thinking in my head, I'm going to hold straight on because I've got 18% FOC, and I don't think a 20-mile-an-hour wind is going to blow me much. I might have held like...
Slightly right, 3 inches or 4.
Right. Yeah. And I shot that Sasquatch pretty much in the dick. Now, not a good shot in terms of elevation because I didn't have 120 yard pin. I was getting, but my left and right was on. In a 20-mile-an-hour wind, how the hell was that possible? That my left and right was pretty much on. So now let's talk about Shane, who's a pro shooter. He's a good
shooting target
but he's on a target setup. I don't know what his grain weight in his arrow was, but because I didn't ask, but I know he's shooting like
400 spine.
Not even 400 grain arrows. He's probably shooting 400 spine. 325 grain arrows.
325 or 300
with 100 point or 125. That's what most target guys do. Anyways, that dude was like, I held 18 inches off the target to the right.
Did he hit it?
He hit the target, and he didn't like, it wasn't a money shot or anything, but think about the difference. I held straight on, pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
He held 18 inches off the target. Not off the 12 ring, off the target. Okay? That's like 2.5 feet off the target.
Mm-hmm.
Or off the 12 ring. And his arrow floated, I think he hit like somewhere in the middle. Like he didn't even get, it wasn't correct. All that to say is this. FOC matters.
It does.
It pulls.
Tell them what
Hold on,
FOC stands
but
for.
not.
Front and center.
I don't want to interrupt you, Brandon, but not extreme.
Not extreme FOC.
Yep, not extreme FOC.
Because extreme FOC
what is it?
typically means too heavy, which changes your.
So
trajectory.
explain that.
So
What is
front of
FOC?
center is where if you take your whole projectile. That's that's the nock, the vanes, the arrow, the component at the front, your insert, your weighted insert, and your point.
Mm-hmm.
Where you balance that arrow, there's a mathematical equation. You can look it up online. It tells you, it'll spit out where your arrow balance is overall based off of where your arrow is. It will tell you what your percentage of FOC is. And Brandon and I are firm believers on that 15 to 18% is ideal for your projectile downrange,
Right.
especially launching a broadhead.
Without a trade-off in trajectory.
Yep.
Because the second you have a high FOC, now you're doing this in your arrow. Now,
How do
bear
you
in mind,
get your
hold on.
FOC?
Bear in mind, we are Western hunters. We don't just take shots at 20 yards, 30
Yeah.
yards. It's just, so we are skewed in that mindset. I know I need to take longer shots.
Long range, yep.
And so my arrow can't, like, I have friends who have moved to this 500, 550, 600 grain arrow setup out west. And they're missing animals entirely
At 60
because
yards, yep.
they misjudged the yardage by 5 yards. Or they picked up a branch or the animal moved 5 yards. It's a clean miss out of the vitals. It's just not a risk I'm going to take. There's no point for it. Listen, I was hunting in Texas. This will put some perspective in your mind about time of flight. Think about this for a minute. And the animal's ability to react to the arrow. I've had 2 experiences with this that are kind of extreme. I shot an aoudad at 19 yards that had no clue that I was there. Okay? I was in Texas. He had, I think, 4, what do you call them? Not does.
Ewes.
Ewes, yeah, thank you. He had 4 ewes with him, and there were 3 other rams as well. So it was like a little herd, and they were all super tight together. I shot this ram. The entire herd, from the time that I shot to the time the arrow hit, and I have this on film, ducked a foot and a half. A foot and a half on camera. I hit that animal right in his hump, right dead smack in the middle, and he lived. And the property that we were at, they seen him later on, and they're like, "Oh yeah, he's fine." And dude, how does an animal duck a foot and a half in the entire hood at 19 yards at a 280 something feet per second arrow? That is insane to me. So think about that in terms of time of flight. Whether you're hunting elk, whether you're hunting whitetail, it doesn't matter. You've got an 800 grain arrow, 600 grain arrow, 700 grain arrow. You're slowing that down.
You're exacerbating the problem.
Yeah.
Yep.
You're
And
talking
not only
about-
that, your amount of kinetic energy. So we're not talking about up close, tree stands. We're talking about like long range shots. Your
Right.
kinetic energy is going this way, which means your arrow's going this way, which means your kinetic energy is following it. So your ability to drive straight through the arrow this way on a plane through the animal diminishes by the more weight you add onto that. And Brandon and I, hopefully this year, we're gonna do some testing against heavyweight stuff with and without the Annihilator, and prove to people that 15 to 18% is ideal, and 15 to 18% stacked up behind the Annihilator will outpenetrate anything else on the market.
including single bevel 2 blades,
Yep.
which
Yeah.
we won't get into here, but
Some fairy stuff?
some fairy stuff.
Yeah.
Well, not to be fair to him. I mean, he's right to say, "Hey, add more weight, you get more kinetic energy."
You do.
That's true. We're just saying out west, if you're a Western hunter, just don't forget about your trajectory, and there's a balance between the ideal arrow for where you hunt. Just consider factors, time of flight, consider factors of my trajectory. Where's that arrow going to hit if I misjudge yardage? You guys laugh at me all the time. I've been shooting with you, and I'm like, hey, what's the range? What's the range? Because my rangefinder's picking up all the shit around it. Okay, you get that off by 3 yards on a
long
800 grain arrow, you miss the animal entirely.
You're done. Yep.
At 60 yards. So, if you're shooting hogs and you're shooting whitetail, I get that, high weight. But I'll tell you this,
I want all that calcium.
right? I'm a huge proponent of FOC overweight. FOC overweight with proper spine, those two things combined, and then weight next for sure.
Then coupled with our broadhead.
Well, assume the greatest broadhead ever on the end of your arrow. No. I do, you know what, as a hunter, first off, one of the things you're going to hear about, from Micah and I, we're hunters first, man.
Just hold that.
Feel like calcium. Feel like calcium.
Yeah.
How's that feel?
Just makes you feel.
It's
crazy.
Awesome. That's awesome.
You just like the girth.
Yeah.
You look at it and you realize you're missing something.
Yeah, some Indians weren't hunters, man. Some of them weed baskets and stuff.
Yeah. Which one were you?
Well, it's kind of cool. I'm not trying to go off tangent, but Bobby, aren't you like part Osage?
Not Osage. I have Cherokee.
Cherokee.
Yeah.
So coming up here to
you live in Osage County.
Yeah.
I see how we got that messed up.
Yeah. Coming up here to Osage County and hunting with somebody who finding an arrowhead.
That's cool.
Who at some point your relatives here a long time ago were probably in this area, right?
Yeah,
and somebody left arrowheads around.
It's just cool to find something that somebody's held in their hand.
3,000 years.
3,000 to 5,000 years ago.
It's badass.
That was hunting. And actually carved it, napped it with their hand, The same thing we love doing. I mean, they probably got the same adrenaline rush.
The coolest thing about that is one, right? They were feeding their families, but two, they were practicing conservation back then.
Didn't even know
it, right? So.
Well, hey, I don't know about you guys, but I gotta piss like a mofo.
Yeah, we gotta go bow fishing.
Let's go bow fishing.
Yeah, we got some boys that are fishing to go. So.
Yeah. Well, Bobby, dude, thank you so much for having us down, man. It was an absolute pleasure.
You're no longer a partner; you're a friend, brother.
Yeah. So,
and you're a straight killer.
For all you guys that are, hopefully you guys enjoyed just this chat. I know we went off on some tangents. Hopefully not too bad, but you guys, you got a perspective of what our broadhead is, what it means to Brendan and I, what it means to someone who was outside the scope of our broadhead, who was traditionally a whitetail guy that only shot mechanicals, came over to the fixed blade side of things, particularly the Annihilator Broadhead, and now we're boys now, and that's what hunting should be, and that's what hunting's all about. So, thank you very much, Bobby.
Appreciate it,
I gotta say, man, I'm in the middle of chasing that dream right now.
Oh, you are.
You got that? Hey, you got that?
There you go.
I said chasing the dream. I did not say intentionally.
Chasing the cream.
Intentionally, I said I'm not chasing that dream.
Yeah.
But nice try, though, bro.
Hey, it's better than chasing the thief. And
right?
leave it
You know what? That is
Like
better.
I always tell you all the time, right? Even on the phone or a text message, if you ain't dreaming, you ain't creaming.
Yeah.
That's right.
All right, guys. Thank you very much.
Yep. We'll see you guys.
Cheers, y'all.
Yeah, let's go shoot some fish, man.
Let's do it.
Yeah, I'm in.
Let's do it.